गाइस गुड इवनिंग। आवाज़ आ रही है आप लोगों को मेरी? कोई एक बार रिस्पॉन्ड करो।
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. So guys, welcome to the session. This is a session on mathematical concepts that are required for deep learning, and I'm not going to take this session. We have Navunil Chakravarti with us. He's a AI researcher, okay, and he is going to be your course mentor alongside me during the entire 6 month duration. About Navunil, he is currently doing post graduation in AI, and he has already published around 20 papers, if I'm correct. Navunil, 20, is it? 15. I'm sorry, 15 papers. And he has got good knowledge in the field of deep learning, and I really wanted him to take this session because he has already done so much in the field. So Navunil will take this session. I'll not be here because I have one more session. So that's it. I wanted to introduce you to Navunil, and कुछ हिचकिचाना नहीं है, टू बी ऑनेस्ट, मतलब ही इज जस्ट लाइक मी। तो आपको कभी भी कोई प्रॉब्लम हो तो यू कैन डायरेक्टली आस्क हिम। आई नो हिम, ही टीचेस वेल। तो एक बार से ट्राई करो इस सेशन को। वन थिंग फ्रॉम माय साइड, जितना मेरे को पता है, द सेशन विल बी डिफिकल्ट, नो डाउट, बिकॉज मैथ्स है और डीप लर्निंग का मैथ्स इज डिफिकल्ट, बट ही विल ट्राई टू सिंप्लीफाई स्टफ। तो अगर आपको कंफ्यूजन होगा तो आस्क हिम, वॉट एवर डाउट्स यू हैव, आस्क हिम, ही विल क्लैरिफाई इट। आई एम रिकॉर्डिंग द सेशन एज वेल। तो अगर आपको इस सेशन में कोई भी प्रॉब्लम होगा तो हम लोग कल भी एक सेशन कर रहे हैं, वहां पे वी कैन हैव अ डिस्कशन, ठीक है? आई गेस कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है अभी तक, सब ठीक है। तो गाइज लेट्स स्टार्ट विद द सेशन। नवनील, स्टार्ट करते हैं फिर। ओके चलो गाइज। ओके Navunil, I'm going then.
Okay, sir.
Okay.
So today's topic is mathematical prerequisites required for deep learning. Firstly, I will be starting with vector representation of features. Like vector representation, how can you represent feature vectors in two-dimensional, three-dimensional, or say n-dimensional space? So let us start with a vector. Say you have learned vectors in physics and also in mathematics as well. You represent, say there is a three-dimensional space, so you represent, say, a vector A as is everybody aware of this I, J, K cap notations? Hello?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
Yeah, so how you can represent this in algebraic form? Okay, that is in the form of a matrix. Actually, this A vector can be represented as a column matrix or say a row matrix. Now, what is a column or a row matrix? A column matrix is a matrix having a single column, and a row matrix is a matrix having a single row. So generally, a column matrix is used, or not used. Column matrix is generally used to represent this. So this is actually known as, this is also like if I will not like during the course or in class I will mention, or I will indicate this as a vector, not a row matrix or a column matrix. That sounds very childish. So this will be represented as a vector, or this I will also call a vector. So don't confuse that how vector is coming, or where from where a matrix becomes a vector. Any one-dimensional matrix, what is the dimension of this matrix? The dimension of this matrix is it contains 3 rows and a single column. So it's 3 by 1. This contains a single row and 3 columns. Okay, so so this actually, when you implement it in a programming language, this effectively is actually represented as 3 comma within a parenthesis. That is, I think you have worked with NumPy matrices, right? So in NumPy matrix, if you say you do import a NumPy as NP and then you initialize an array like this. Okay, say a equal to, and now you print a dot shape. What you will get? You will get a shape like this. Okay, this means that a, the NumPy array a is actually a vector. So if I call or term a as a vector, I don't expect you people will get confused. Okay, so this is actually, these are actually vectors, and the dimension of this is 1. Okay, now don't confuse that 3 by 1, so it is 2-dimensional. Yeah, it is 2-dimensional, no doubt, but as one of the size of one of the dimension is 1, so it can be reduced to 1 dimension. Okay, so this is actually bridging the gap between vector and matrix, and the basis, it forms the basis of vector algebra. Now I will be going, or I will be connecting this knowledge towards your AI or ML considerations, or working with different data sets, or applying the concept of feature space geometry and all. So say you are given a data set, like say you are given a data set to classify a cat and a dog, and say you don't have images, you have numerical features. I'm not jumping onto images right now because this is a class of mathematical prerequisites. So say you are given a data set uh, with different features like eye color, uh, ear shape, uh, body color. Okay, and finally cat or dog. So this is actually a feature, eye color, so I have named as f1. This is f2, this is f3, and this is not a feature, right? This is a target label. So say I'm labeling it as L. Okay, so now say there is a color, say blue. Okay, ear shape is pointed, body color is white. Say it's a cat. Okay, and in the and in this way you have let's say you have eye color, say red, ears are normal, or say not pointed, body color is brown. Okay, and this is a dog. Now you have 3 features, right? And with the help of these 3 features, you are given a training data set. This contains many other instances as well, and a target label, that is a cat or dog. Say blue is represented by a digit. Okay, say by yeah, a digit, or say a label, say 1. Red is represented by 0. Pointed is represented as 1. Not pointed is represented as 0. Hey, have you in your machine learning course, if you have done before, have you do you know what is label encoding? What is one hot encoding?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay. Then you are aware of that. Yeah. Say I have label encoded these as 1010. Okay, and the cat is actually alphabetically, C comes before D.
Yes, sir. For
So
level
cat is,
encoding, it starts with 01. The fast letter given the priority.
yeah. Then you are aware. Okay, I have labeled by some, say I have randomly labeled or hand labeled.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So, yeah. So say you want to represent the first uh, row or the first instance. Okay, you need to represent the instance or the features only in a vector. So how will you do it? So it will be represented as 1 1 1. Okay, this one means eye color. This one means ear shape, and this one means body color. So see, this vector is actually known as feature vector. Now, with the help of this feature vector, the dataset is represented, or the dataset is used in practice. Okay, so say you have another instance, the dog instance, that is red, not pointed, and brown. So how will you represent it? You will represent it as like this: 0 0 0. Right. Now, how will you represent it? Represent the whole data set? Like you have now you have only two instances, right? So you need to represent these two instances together. Then you will require a matrix, because using one-dimensional matrices, or you can't say that is vector. That is a vector. You can't represent the whole data set. Like because that matrix will require the feature vectors of each and every instance. So in that case, what shall you do? In that case, you will require a matrix. Okay. And what will be the shape of the matrix? The shape of the matrix will be 2 into 3, where 2, because you have two instances, or say two rows, and 3 means you have 3 features. Okay. The second dimension is always the feature dimension, and the first dimension represents the number of rows, or say the number of instances, training instances you have. So what will be the final matrix? The final matrix will be 1 1 1 and 0 0 0. This is for the cat instance, and this is for the dog instance. Okay, so in this way it keeps on increasing as you represent other samples or training samples or other training instances to get together in the matrix. Okay, so this is important. Okay, now say there are two cats. Okay, say I am adding another instance. Say you have body color white, you have pointed ears, that is 1, but the eye color is say black. Okay, so black is represented by say 2 label. Now it is a cat only. Okay, now what is the similarity between the first cat and the second cat? Okay, so just let me clear the board a bit. I'm clearing this part. Okay, say you want to measure the similarity between the first cat and the second cat. How will you measure it? Say the cat 1 is represented as 1 1 1, right? What about cat 2? Cat 2 is represented as 2 1 1. Now you need to measure the similarity between these two vectors. Now tell me a method how we can check the similarity between these two vectors. Just anyone tell me by any guesses, or say any idea if anyone has, please.
Ear shape and body are same.
Yes.
Ear shape and body are same of the two cats.
No, you see, you have two vectors. Okay, I have represented cat 1 as 1 1 1, as I have said, and I have represented cat 2 as 2 1 1. Now you have two vectors. Okay, these two, this one and this one. Now you need to measure the similarity between these two vectors. Tell me a method how I can measure it. any method. You have learned machine learning, so you will be having many tools. Okay, so okay, I'll give you a clue
Distance,
how you can
measuring the distance by, let's say cat 2
measuring.
minus cat 1.
Yeah, that is actually not the normal Euclidean distance. That is a different distance metric. It has a name. Okay, okay, you can do that, do in that way. But yeah, after that you are saying you will measure the distance. But tell me how you can measure the distance. Mathematically, if you can formulate something. Okay, you are saying you will do a subtraction, right? Okay, okay. Fine. This is the vector c1. This is the vector c2. You are saying you will do subtraction. Okay, let us do subtraction. C2 minus C1. What will it give? It will give you a vector only, right? So it will be 1, it will be 0, it will be 0. So you are ending up with a vector. Now I am saying you will finally end up with something, with a value, with a scalar unit that will give you the measure of the similarity between these two vectors. Okay, you are saying you will do subtraction. Yes, I have done subtraction and I have obtained a vector 1, 0, 0. After that,
Actually, we should go for cosine distance. If the angle is, let's say the two vectors, measuring the angle, we can find out is this the 2 points are how much similar.
yeah, you are saying about cosine similarity, right? Yeah, that is a very good, that is actually one of the best methods of measuring similarity. So the cosine, actually it comes from the dot product. Okay, the dot product of two vectors. Say a vector a dot b, I think you know this. A dot b is mod a mod b cos theta. That is the theta is the angle between these two vectors. Now actually this cos theta is the this cos theta is required to be found out. Fine. And now you imagine that this theta is 0. Now when the theta is 0, cos 0 is 1. So when the two vectors are aligned, now I am again going to some physics. Okay, say these two vectors are aligned. This is a vector A and this is vector B. So what you can say is they are only varying in magnitude, but in direction they are same. And we are interested in the similarity of these two vectors. So directional similarity is actually a huge thing. It may vary in magnitude, but it is pointing towards the same direction. So more more the value of this cos theta term, more will be the similarity between any two vectors in relation to AI or data science, whatever you say. So here how we can calculate, or how we can like what will be the cosine similarity between these two vectors c1 and c2. Okay, so cosine similarity cos theta is actually the dot product, that is a dot b. Let us write c1 dot c2. Okay, c1 dot c2 divided by mod of c1 mod of c2. Now how you can calculate the dot product between these two vectors? See, dot product is nothing but transposing one of the two vectors, say matrices, and calculating the result. So let me show you what I want to say. One of you said difference calculating or subtracting these two vectors. Your approach is right. Okay, you have to like you have to think of what you will do after that. Okay, that is actually a very good approach. It goes on to feature space geometry concept. Okay, that is a very good concept also, but that gives you the direct measure of dissimilarity between these two vectors. Okay, more the value, more is the dissimilarity, and less the value, less more is the similarity. Okay, now I am talking about cosine or the cosine similarity. C1 dot C2 is actually the vector C1 multiplied by C2 transpose. Obviously, you can't multiply a matrix. Now I'm calling it a matrix, okay, for your convenience. You can't multiply a matrix of dimension 3 by 1 with another of 3 by 1. So, okay, so this is not possible. So you have to make the dimension same. So for making the dimension same, you should transpose it. So you will end up with something. Okay. So you will actually get this. Now the thing is, now you see, now when you multiply, you will get what? You will get a matrix that is 3 by 3. So dot product is a scalar. It can't be a matrix or a vector. Okay. So you need to keep that also in mind. So by multiplying this, you will end up with what? You will end up with a matrix. So this will not do. So you should, where should you place the transpose sign? You can't place the transpose sign here.
The first vector.
Yeah. If you place the transpose sign here, then you will get a single row and 3 columns. Okay, and what about this matrix? This contains 3 rows, right? So three rows and a single column. Now you multiply. You will end up with a single value that is a scalar. Okay, so let me write it in a proper way. It will you will get this multiplied by this. Now what should be the value? 4, right?
4.
Yeah, so you will be getting 4. So plug 4 here. Now what is mod of C1? See, mod of C1 is the magnitude. Okay, what you know from vector algebra is magnitude. Now how will calculate the magnitude? What is magnitude? Magnitude is nothing but the scalar in one direction squared the scalar in the other direction, sum of the squares of the scalars in all directions root over, right? So this is 1 square plus 1 square plus 1 square times C2. Now C2 is 2 and 1, so it will be 2 square plus 1 square plus 1 square. So what should be the value? Somebody calculate the value using a calculator if you have in front of you. So it will be actually 4 by under root 3 times under root 4, which is
0.46.
Under root 6.
0.46. Yeah, under root 6. Yeah. Yeah, but what
0.
is the
0.47? Cos theta is 0.47.
0.47. Okay. So the range of cos theta is actually -1 to +1, right? So there and our desirable value, say more like if the value of cos theta is say more, then obviously there is more similarity. Fine, like towards this +1. So we are getting 0.47. So you can say that there is a 47% similarity. You should not say like this that there is a 47% similarity. You can say that there is a similarity of say 0.47 between these two vectors. Okay, and the main cause of dissimilarity is because of this two. Okay, so in this way you can measure the similarity between any two vectors. This is actually the state of the art, or you can say a very good method for measuring similarity. Okay, and there is another concept also, that is the distance concept, that also I'm explaining to you. The concept of Euclidean distance. It's actually feature space geometry. Feature space geometry means you are plotting like each and every coordinate in the feature space is actually a feature. That's why the name is feature space geometry. Many machine learning problems, say recommendation systems, unsupervised learning, okay, these can be solved very easily if you are fluent with feature space geometry. Okay, so let me tell you, you had two vectors, that is C1, you have 1 1 1, C2 you had 2 1 1. Now you can plot this in a three-dimensional space where you have, say, this is the first feature, this is the second feature. Each and every axis represents a feature. Okay, this was, I guess, the eye color, this was the body color, this was the ear shape. Okay, these are actually three features where taken in order. Okay, 1 1 1 and 2 1 1. You can plot these here. I'm plotting it randomly, don't go axis by axis. I'm just plotting these two. Say these points, this point, each and every point represents a training instance. Here, say this point represents C1, this point represents C2. Now you can calculate the distance between these 2 points, the Euclidean distance. So how will you calculate the Euclidean distance? This is 2 1 1 and this is 1 1 1. So what is the Euclidean distance d? It is under root of 2 minus 1 whole squared, which is 1. 1 minus 1 whole squared, it's 0. Again 1 minus 1 whole squared, it is 0. So the distance is 1. And less the distance, more is the similarity, because less the distance, more closer are 2 points on this feature space geometry, and more is the similarity between these two training instances. Now you can say more is the similarity between these two cats. Here in this example, they are cats, obviously. So in this way, this is actually some major key concepts of feature space geometry, vector algebra, very handy in the field of AI ML. Though you will require this in deep learning as well, you can combine these concepts with the concepts you will learn in deep learning to make your model more robust for application. Along with, because deep learning has separate concepts as well, which are I'll not say are higher or are much superior than these concepts. These are very classical concepts, but yeah, you can combine classical concepts with that of the concepts you will learn in deep learning, and you can make your work or make your model more robust. Okay, so now let's move on to do you people know eigenvectors, eigenvalues, eigenvectors? Though okay, do you have you studied PCA, principal component analysis? Hello?
No, sir.
In your ML classes, you have not learned PCA. You should have learned. Are you sure?
भैया थोड़ा रिवीजन कर देना बस, पढ़ा तो है
PCA नहीं PCA
नहीं आइगन वेक्टर वाला जो बोला ना,
आइगन वेक्टर डीप लर्निंग में उतना इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है, लेकिन वेक्टर अलजेब्रा में है। ये क्लास वेक्टर अलजेब्रा का है, इसलिए आइगन का जो है रिवीजन, मतलब आइगन का टॉपिक भी बहुत बड़ा है। मैं जस्ट टच करके चला जाता। बिकॉज आइगन वेक्टर पढ़ने के बाद आइगन डिकम्पोजिशन भी पढ़ना पड़ेगा. आइगन डिकम्पोजिशन इज अगेन अ बिग टॉपिक, so I can skip that. You can these eigenvectors and eigen decomposition, everything is available online also. They are, but the feature space geometry concept is not directly mentioned anywhere. What the concept, what till now what you have learned, you can't find these anywhere in online. And if you can find, it's difficult to interpret. किस डोमेन में लाइक किस तरह इसको यूज कर सकते हैं. Okay, the domain or that the example that I gave you, with the help of this example you can solve a wide range of problems. लेकिन आइगन वेक्टर्स का क्या है? आइगन वेक्टर एक मैथमेटिकल कॉन्सेप्ट है जिसके ऊपर बहुत एल्गोरिथम्स बने हुए हैं, जैसे कि पीसीए है, एलडीए है. दीज आर एक्चुअली डायमेंशनलिटी रिडक्शन टेक्निक्स. तो ये पीसीए डायमेंशनल रिडक्शन डीप लर्निंग में अलग तरह से किया जाता है. पीसीए जनरली एमएल या सिर्फ जो क्लासिकल एमएल वाला पार्ट है उसमें यूज होता है. Anyhow, if you find anywhere any problem with PCA, or if you want to use PCA anywhere, then I can guide you in the due course. Okay. So, as for now, I am skipping. Okay. So now say you have n features in a data set. Just wait. Just a minute. It's lagging too much. Okay, say you have n features. Okay, n features and m instances. Fine. Now tell me, you will represent your whole data set with the help of a matrix. Now what will be the dimension of the matrix based on what you have learned so far?
Sir, m into n.
Yeah, it will be m into n, where each and every vector is actually a feature vector. Now in deep learning, these feature vectors, like this is number 1 training instance, this is number 2, okay, this is number 3, and this continues till you reach m. Okay, now the thing is, these are numbers. Okay, you have numbers here, you have numbers here. Now these vectors are actually represented in memory, or say in implementation, as tensors. Now these tensors actually, what are tensors? Like, first of all, what is the definition of a tensor? Tensor is actually a homogeneous data structure which have the ability to get executed in a GPU. GPU मतलब graphics processing unit में इन data structures का manipulation, इनका जो कुछ भी मतलब operation है, any operation, any manipulation on these data structures can be executed on GPU, which actually accelerates the training time. मतलब training time can be optimized, the training speed can be accelerated, because deep learning models are very complicated, data sets are very very large. You need a very large data sets actually in deep learning. So tensors can accelerate the training speed, or in other words, it can optimize the training time. Okay, so for execution in GPU, you can't execute a normal NumPy matrix or say vector in a GPU. जो आप लोग स्केलर में किया जा रहे हैं, मतलब अभी तक किए हैं, उसमें नहीं चलेगा. स्केलर, as far as I know, in normal cases GPU support नहीं मिलता है फ्री में. Okay, so for execution in GPU, you need tensors. And there is a framework in deep learning known as Keras that has the ability to connect a NumPy matrix to GPU. by making it a tensor. Now ये जो numpy का मैट्रिक्स है इसको डायरेक्टली जीपीयू में इनेबल करने का एबिलिटी केरस में है, लेकिन देयर आर अदर डीप लर्निंग फ्रेमवर्क्स एज वेल, जैसे कि केरस एक एक्चुअली फ्रंट एंड फ्रेमवर्क है. इसके पीछे बिहाइंड this the mastermind is TensorFlow. TensorFlow पीछे काम करता है और Keras actually with the help of TensorFlow backend it converts the numpy which you will use into a tensor which can be used or implemented in a GPU. Hence training time is optimized to a much larger extent. So how many types of tensors are there? What are the data types of the tensors? As I have said, tensors are homogeneous data structures. Some real world examples of tensors. So these are the topics that are to be covered now. So tensors, number one, scalar tensor. Okay. Now what is a scalar tensor? Scalar tensor is any, say, a vector with a single with a single number. Okay, say in Python you write x equal to np dot array 12. This is actually not an array. You can say it is an array with a single number, but it actually is not that also. It's a scalar. It's a single scalar. You can't see anywhere these signs, these brackets, these square brackets. There is nowhere there. So this is actually a scalar. Okay, you can check. Say if you have a vector, you will have at least a single dimension. You will have a single dimension. The dimension of a vector is always equal to 1. Okay, but if you do x dot n dim and say you have pressed enter, you will get 0, no dimension. Whenever you operate with n dim, this is obviously an object. Okay, this is a class instance or say class variable, and if you do it, if you see the number of dimensions and if you get 0, then x is always a scalar. And if you use numpy in Keras, it will be called a scalar tensor. Understood?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. So now what is the shape? Okay. What is the shape? Shape is actually, as this contains a single value, the shape will always be equal to 1. Okay. Now let me tell you the difference between shape and number of dimensions. This is actually very important because you may get confused. Okay, because what is a dimension, what is a shape? Okay, so dimension is the number of axes. In scalar it makes no sense, so it's always equal to 0, but shape can never be equal to 0. Shape means the size. Okay, the size is always equal to, as it contains a single value, the size will always be equal to 1. Okay, so you should be very clear with the concepts of like n dim, that is the number of dimensions, and the shape. Okay, in Python. Now let's go to one-dimensional tensor. Say you initialize a numpy array x equal to np dot array. Okay, say it is 12, 3, 1. Now this is a numpy array. You can say it's a one-dimensional numpy array, or you can just say it is a vector. Okay, so if you do x dot n dim, you will obviously get 1. Now if you do x dot shape, what will you get?
3 comma.
you will get, yeah, 3 comma, just 3 comma, nothing else. You can if you reshape, let's say if you do x dot reshape it to 3 comma 1, then you will get 3 comma 1. This means you are expanding the dimension. Now after that, if you do x dot end time, you will end up with getting 2, because you have two dimensions now. This represents a single dimension, this represents 2 dimensions. Okay, I think now you are clear with the difference of between the number of dimensions and the shape. Okay, I am moving on to two-dimensional tensors now. Two-dimensional tensor, say x equal to np dot array 12, 1, 4, 2, 3, 9. Okay, now this is actually a two-dimensional tensor, or say a two-dimensional, like now you can't say this is a vector. Okay, this is a matrix. That is, the matrix is actually 12, 1, 4, 2, 3, 9. Okay, now if you do x dot end time, you will end up getting 2. If you do x dot shape, now tell me what will you get if you do x dot shape? What you will get if you do x dot shape? You want to print the shape of the numpy array x. Now tell me what you will get after you do x dot shape.
2 comma 3.
3 comma 2.
No, the correct answer is 2 comma 3, because 2 comma 3 means 2 rows and 3 columns. The row comes first and the column comes the next, and the column follows it. Okay, it's always R into C. Okay, so don't confuse. This is the default convention. Okay, nothing wrong telling it 3 by 2, but from the concept of mathematics, the matrix concept of mathematics and its representation in computer science or in Python, it is always R into C. Okay, and I have also represented this numpy array here also. So from here you can also say 2 into 3. It's not 3 into 2. Okay, so now so it is an example of a two-dimensional tensor. Now there can be an n-dimensional tensor as well. Okay, again I am reminding, dimension and shape are very two different terms. Yeah, there is a relation in between them. Can anyone say what is the relationship between, say you have two statements. Okay, x is a numpy array, any numpy array. Leave the concept of scalar. I have just told you that there exists something as scalar, but if you don't want to remember it, just leave it. Okay, as it's a convention to always start with a scalar and then move on to vector, I have started with a scalar. It has no use. Okay, say you are doing x dot end time and you are doing x dot shape. You will be getting here m comma n. Okay, something like these values, and in n time you will be getting, obviously as I have mentioned, n-dimensional tensor, so you will be getting n. Actually you will get a single result. Okay, let me remove these brackets, you will get confused.
So actually transpose हो रहा है ना?
नहीं, transpose नहीं हो रहा है. Let me finish. See, if you want to print the number of dimensions, you will do x dot n time. You will be getting n, a single digit answer, that is n. But if you want to display the shape, that is x dot shape, you will be getting a tuple. Is everybody aware what is a tuple in Python? What is a tuple in Python?
Tuple is like list but is unmutable.
Yeah, that means you can't directly modify or change anything in a tuple. Okay, you know what is tuple. Fine. So when you do x dot shape, you will be getting a tuple like this. Now tell me what is the relationship between n time and shape, that is the number of dimensions and the shape of a numpy array. This is an interesting question, very conceptual.
The length of the shape array will be
this, then you are clear.
The length of the shape array will be n, the n time.
Yeah, the shape of the tuple will actually be the number of dimensions. This is actually the relationship between the number of dimensions and the shape of a number array.
Length
You
of
are
the
right.
shape of that.
Okay, then you have no.
Length of the shape.
See, you are getting, yeah, the length of the it's not an array in Python, it's a tuple. Okay, so the length of
Yeah.
this tuple is actually equal to n. Yeah, you are done. So I'm not going any further. You've understood what is, has everybody understood what is the relationship between the number of dimensions and the shape of a number array?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. So now let's move on to some practical examples, some interesting stuff, a lot of theory and mathematics. So you are done with the cat dog example, right? Just what I gave you. So I am not, so it's an example of a vector data. Okay, it's an application of a vector data. Where the dimension of the training set is actually samples, comma, features. Now you are done with this. You have understood what is this. Okay. So now let us move on to a different example, an interesting one. Time series data. Has anybody just heard about time series data from anywhere, from internet or from any practical project? What is time series data? Has anybody heard about this time series?
The data set is time distributed, मतलब time के हिसाब से, time stamp के हिसाब से डेटा आता है, sequential data.
वो COVID-19 का भी
हाँ, COVID-19 का जो data set है, the data set of COVID-19 is actually an example of a time series data. Where, okay, so you have seen time series data. So those who have seen time series data, tell me what is the number of dimension of a time series data? Or what is the dimension of a time series data? Tell me. You told you have seen time series data. Very fine. So what is the dimension of a time series data? The dimension of vector data that I have just told you by the example of a cat dog, it's 2. Okay, it has samples, comma, features as the shape of the matrix. Now tell me, what is the dimension of a time series data? Those who have seen time series data, those who have answered that the COVID-19 data set is a time series data, what is the dimension of the time series data? You have understood what is a dimension called. So okay, time series data actually has 3 components. Okay, let me say, obviously samples is a component that is also present in vector data. The second component is timestamp. And the third component is features. Okay, these are 3 basic components of a time series data. Now, say I am relating this with the example of COVID-19 case. Okay, I have not seen the real-time data set of COVID-19. I have seen a recorded data set in a GitHub repo for COVID-19. Anyhow, I am relating this with the practical COVID-19 data set. Okay, so let's relate. You have country. Okay, let me just go to a separate page. Okay, time series data. Time series data has samples, time steps, and features. Now, say there is a country there is a timestamp, number infected, recovered. A miniature form, okay, I'm not going to the actual details. Say India. Now timestamp is say 1st March. Number getting infected. Say there is a number, anything, say 100. Now recovered, there is no case of recovery. Let's go to 15th March. The number has increased to say 300, and recovery case is 10. Okay. I am recording it of for the month of March only. Fine. 30th March. Case, the total number of infected has rose to 1,000. Recovery is very less. Now let's go to USA. 1st March. 1530. For 1st March, say infected is 1,000. There is less of recovery. March, there is 100 recovery. For 30th March, say 5,000. And this is a classical example of time series data, where you have samples, okay, time steps, features. And let me tell you that why it is a 3-dimensional data set. Because you have 3 dimensions. You have where samples is the 1st dimension, time steps or time stamp, okay, is the 2nd dimension, features deals with the 3rd dimension, okay, the feature vector or say the features. Okay, so let me pick up one data that is of India's. It has a time step. It has got the number of people infected. So these are the number of people infected and the number of the people getting recovered. This forms the features. Okay, this forms the feature. Height means the height of the image, that is 5. Width is 5. As it's 5 into 5, you don't need to worry about what is height, what is width. Channel, it's a colored image, RGB, three channels, so it should be 3. So 10 into 5 into 5 into 3. Simple. Why is it taking so much time? Have you understood how image data is being represented? समझ में आया?
Yes, sir. Now understood.
Okay. So I'm moving on to the final example, final practical example, which is video data. If you there is also a domain known as video image processing. Okay, it's a difficult domain. So video data, so it's related to image data only. Video data is actually 5 dimensions. It's a huge, complicated one. Okay, how 5? It has 5 components: samples, frames, height, width, and channels. Now you people are aware of this, and this. You people are not aware of this. This is a new dimension, frames. See, if you want to analyze or process video data, okay, say you want to locate a particular person, okay, particular person. If you want to look at a particular actor in a film, say there is a short film of 30 minutes, you need to identify whether a particular actor is present in that particular film or not. It's a very interesting practical example. So how will you do it? From video data, how can you collect images? You need frames, right? You need different frames, and each frame is identified by a frame ID. So for each frame, say you are taking a particular frame, so that forms an image. You have corresponding height, width, and channels. So you are taking, and see, frame is actually a scene. Okay, say in a film there is a scene. There are incoming and outgoing of different characters. Okay, so that scene is actually known as frame in our like AI ML, or in our domain we call a scene of a film as a frame. So when a scene is going on, there can be incoming of different characters, outgoing of different characters. Okay, so when a character is incoming, the frame gets changed. Like, I'm not saying that the frame gets changed, you can say the image gets changed. Okay, but the frame is intact, the same scene is going on, only different characters are like coming and some characters are going. So those are corresponding to a single frame only, but for that particular frame you are getting many images. So that many images forms a particular frame, belongs to a particular frame, and then you have a different scene. The film switches on to a different scene, you end up getting a different set of images. Okay, so this is actually what is video data. Tell me an example of a film, of a film with say 2 to 3 scenes, then I can construct a data set for you now. It will be fun also, and you may get interested with video data as well. So name a film which is very popular, and you have 2 to 3 important scenes with you.
Titanic.
Okay, so samples, frames, height, width, channels. Say okay, I am not mentioning scene, I am mentioning it as frame. You have understood what is a frame. Say frame 1, intro of RMS Titanic. Frame 2 is hitting of iceberg. Okay, and frame 3 is final sinking. Okay, just remember that you have 3 frames, 3 scenes. Actually, these are very important scenes in the film, so you need to construct a dataset with these scenes. So the dataset will be a big one, so I'm switching again. So here there is sample number, it's a sample ID, frame, height, width, channels. Sample ID, say it's 1. Frame, now what was the first frame? The first frame was the introduction of RMS Titanic. Say you are setting the dimension of each frame as 10 into 10, and the number of channel is 3 RGB. Okay, obviously color, you are taking color images, and Titanic was made in color, so no point of making it 1, it's always 3. Okay, so next is so this was so in the introduction of RMS Titanic, say the Titanic ship was shown to us. So then there came the different parts of RMS Titanic, the different rooms. Okay, so like it's the same context, the same thing is going on, but you are ending up with a different image. So again you have this. So then people are shown purchasing tickets for RMS Titanic. It's the same context, the introduction of RMS Titanic. So again you have a snap taken. This is the first image I1. This is the second image I2. This is the third image I3. Okay. So now the second sample. The second sample is the second frame. The second frame was fitting with the iceberg. First of all, the iceberg collision. So you have taken an image. The captain inspecting different parts of the ship. You have taken snap. You may not have any other snap. You may not have any other snap. So I'm shifting again to the next portion. The next portion is, say, actually when you are working, this is actually zeroth index. I think you are aware of this. So I have not mentioned it as 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. This frame ID can be anything, depends upon your naming, but always samples are 0, starting from 0. Okay, so just don't ignore that. The third frame was the final syncing. You have also taken 3 images for the final syncing as well. So these images may not be distinct, like there can be minute differences, minute changes. It depends upon your strategy, like for each frame how many images you are considering. Okay, there is actually a what can I say, a gap time. Okay, there is a gap time. Say for a frame is of 10 minutes. Okay, there is a scene of 10 minutes and you are calculating you are taking screenshots, 3 screenshots. Okay, so there is a gap of 3.33 seconds, 3.33 minutes. This is actually the snapshot taking gap between each and every like image, or when a scene is going on, you are taking the snaps at intervals of 3.33 minutes. Okay, so there is another concept known as the snap time or the interval time, maintaining which you will be taking images. So yeah, this is all about video data. So these are some of the basic examples: vector data, time series data, image data, and video data that forms. Yeah, there is another important example, which is text data. Text data actually has many variants. I'm saying one of the variants. Say there is a word. Okay, good. There is a word king. Okay, king. This word king is represented as a vector. Okay, say it's a vector v1. Okay, and there is a word known as emperor. It is represented as a vector, say v2. Now, what will be the cosine similarity, that is cosine sim, between v1 and v2? It should be very high, because this king and this emperor, these are quite synonymous word. Or if you calculate the Euclidean distance between this v1 and v2, you will be getting a very less distance. Okay, so these vectors v1 and v2 are known as word embeddings. Okay, these are used in NLP. I'm not going into further details. So in this way, vector algebra is also used in natural language processing as well. So that's all for today. You will have any doubts?
Sir, can you please explain that video data time part another once more?
Okay, so time. Okay. I got it. Frame, sample, HWC. Okay. So say you are considering a particular frame. You are calculating an image. You are taking an image. Okay. So this is an image I1 belonging to the frame 1. Say you have taken a snap at the what can I say, at 1 minute. Okay, there is each and every scene is actually frame, synonymous word, a scene is of 10 minutes. Fine. And you are taking, and you have prefixed in your mind that you will take 5 images from each scene. Okay. So now you tell me what should be the interval time or gap time. What you have understood, you tell me. See, the interval time or gap time is actually the total time available and the total number of images that you want to take belonging to a particular frame. It's actually T. Okay. So a gap, within a gap of 2 minutes, you will take images. Say for the third minute, you will end up getting an image. For the fifth, you will end up getting an image. For seventh, for 9. So you will be getting these images. Okay, so you have 5 images belonging to a particular frame 1. Okay, so the interval time IT is actually equal to frame time. Don't go into details because video processing or video data is actually very difficult, advanced stuff. Okay, I'm just telling you the processing part. Frame time divided by number of images.
Number of images. Thank
For
you,
a
sir.
frame.
Thank you, sir.
Any other doubts for anyone is having? Okay, another thing I wanted to say is, anyone from you asked about gradient descent, batch gradient descent and stochastic gradient descent, like which one is faster or which one is slow? Some of one of you asked me, like in the previous demo lecture, I think day before tomorrow, someone asked me that SGD
Yes,
is taking
sir.
more time. Yeah. So actually, see, classical time complexity, what you have, you got to know, is not actually considered important here. Okay. Yeah, SGD will take more time when the data set is larger. It's quite evident because gradient descent is taking that many number of iterations, and you are doing it for each and every instance. The thing which is important is how much faster you are achieving minima. It is mathematics, okay? It has nothing to do with the algorithm. How much
Yes, sir.
faster you are approaching minima. So this is the minima, and you are starting from here. If you go for SGD, you will take much less time to achieve the minima. But if you follow SGD, you may end up getting the minima here. But by doing BGD, it is the batch gradient descent, you may end up here only. That is the actual or the most accurate point of minima. Okay, so this is the difference between BGD and SGD. Now, what I've told, it has no definite proof. Everything is seen or concluded with many practical data sets, many practical examples. It solely depends upon the data set. It may happen that SGD is taking a lot of time to find the minima. Still, it is getting a minima which is not at all accurate. But the thing is, there is a trade-off, right? BGD takes time, but accurate. SGD takes less time. See, I am not telling this with the algorithmic point of view. I am taking this with the mathematical or the functional point of view. Okay, it takes less time, but inaccurate. Now, for setting a midway between these, mini batch is being used in practice. Now, you people know what is mini batch. I have already explained what is mini batch. So this is the trade-off between BGD and SGD. Now, I have also forwarded you the article where I have used BGD and SGD in univariate linear regression. I have also compared the performance, and I got better performance in BGD. As I told you that BGD may take time in reaching the minima, but finally it will give you the most accurate result. Okay, but don't try BGD in practice. You will end up taking a lot of time. Okay, so in practice, always mini batch gradient descent is being used, where a batch size, which is a multiple of the total number of instances, is being used. So, are you clear that why mini batch is used instead of BGD or SDD?
So now it's clear.
Okay. Yeah. So, say someone was saying something.
Yes, sir, it's clear now.
Okay. So this was all about. So anyone having any doubts regarding today's lecture? Okay. So I think we can finish. Let me inform Nitish sir about that.
Yeah, Navunil, I'm here.
हाँ sir, हो गया.
Okay,
It's
okay,
done.
guys. Okay, guys. So we are done with the session, and we'll have one more session tomorrow on gradient descent. Okay. So I'll let you know about the timings and all. और आज का क्लास कैसा रहा उसके बारे में मेरे को ग्रुप में एक बार बताना थोड़ा, ठीक है? So I hope you enjoyed the class. क्लास में मजा आया होगा. और
कब मिलेगा
क्या क्या?
आज का क्लास का वीडियो?
आज का क्लास का वीडियो यार रिकॉर्ड हो रहा है, बस मैं थोड़ा सा अपना क्लास लेके एडिट मारता हूँ और फिर मैं डाल देता हूँ ग्रुप में.
ओके सर.
ठीक है?
Okay, sir.
ठीक है गाइस, फिर कल मिलते हैं फिर से एक बार, और ये वीडियो मैं आज रात तक डालता हूँ, ठीक है? ओके
Yes,
नवनील,
sir.
नवनील थैंक्स. मैं तेरे साथ बात करता हूँ नवनील रात में, ठीक है? एक बार.
Welcome sir. Okay sir. Sure sir.
ओके गाइस, चलो फिर मैं मीटिंग बंद कर रहा हूँ. थैंक्स फॉर जॉइनिंग. बाय.
हैव डिनर.
अरे यार,
Yes, sir.
अच्छा,
नाइस.
बाय. हाँ.
Yes.